Next chapter, Things That Crack. Outside our classroom, Julia waited for me with her hands on her hips. God, you're an idiot. You're an idiot, you know that? I'm an idiot? She's been eating all that bread at that stupid job you got her. She's not supposed to eat any of that stuff, idiot. I didn't get her the stupid. I don't even know what you're talking about. It's her epilepsy, idiot. You total idiot. Her dad has her on this special diet. He makes her special food. She's not supposed to eat bread or drink soda. She's not? No, she's not, idiot. And by the way, what's your problem with me anyway? I'd really like to know. What? Your problem with me. What is it? Besides the fact that you've called me an idiot 6 times in the last minute? Besides the fact that you shot a rubber band at my head? She waved all that away as if I had mentioned some silly detail. I'm talking about way before that. You've hated me forever. You've been giving me dirty looks since 3rd grade. Are you going to pretend that you haven't? I stared at her. Some feeling that had started in my stomach was now traveling up to my face, and I knew that when it got there, I was going to turn bright red and hear the ocean, which is what happens when I get put on the spot. And if I don't cry, I turn red and hear the ocean. It's a lose-lose situation. What are you talking about? I said. I have no idea, she said. I really don't. But a person knows when someone hates her, or at least I do. She flung her arm down and her little silver watch flew off her wrist and hit the floor with a crack. A very sharp, final sounding sort of crack. Her precious watch. Now, I'm not proud of this now, but that sound, which echoed in the tiled hallway, made me really happy. I sucked my bottom lip so that I wouldn't smile. Julia bent down and picked up her watch. I thought she would start to screech, but she just flipped it over in her hand and looked down at it. A web of tiny cracks covered the face like a cobweb. Oh, great. She puffed out her cheeks and I exhaled slowly. This whole day just stinks, she said, and she walked away. On the way home, I found myself walking half a block behind Sal again. I'd learned not to run to catch up to him. He would only look down at his sneakers and not talk. So I watched him bobbing along in his navy blue knit hat, his head going from side to side a little, like it always does when he walks. I think he thought that hat looked tough, the way that he had it pulled down to his eyebrows. And then Marcus came out of his dented front door next to the garage, wearing that green army coat he always wore. He started walking down the block and toward Sal. Even half a block away, I could see Sal's body hunch and slow down. I knew what he was doing. He was looking for a way out. Should he pretend that he needed to cross the street all of a sudden? That he had just remembered something that he needed to buy at Bell's? But it was a little late for that. Marcus was almost in front of him. Now, I could have called out to Sal at that moment. It would have been easy. He would have had an excuse to turn around and to start walking away from Marcus. And then Marcus might have stopped to talk to me for a minute, and Sal would have seen that it was all okay. He could have dropped his fear of Marcus right then and there. And I've thought about this a lot, because I realize it would have changed everything that happened later. Instead, I just watched. And what Sal did was squat down and pretend to tie his shoe. It was a plea for mercy. Dropping to tie your shoe was an I can't fight, I can't run, I bow down before you sort of move. Plus, just in case some hitting did occur, it protected his important body parts. I kept walking while Sal crouched there on the sidewalk, and Marcus walked right by without even noticing him. And then Marcus walked right by me. Things left behind. Guess what? Anna Marie said when I called her at home that night to see if she was okay. Someone left a rose on our doormat. For you? Well, I don't know. Maybe. Of course it was for her. Who else would it be for? Well, was there anything with it, like a card? No, just the rose. Her voice sounded all thin and excited. Weird, huh? I wonder... Hey, can I ask you something? Are you not supposed to eat bread? She was quiet. Well, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just that Julia said that... No, she interrupted. It is sort of a big deal. I should have told you. I have epilepsy. Oh. And I'm not supposed to eat bread or starches. It's this crazy diet my dad read about, but it actually works. And I'm usually fine, and people don't even really know that I have it because for years I have hardly had any seizures at all. Is that what happened today? Yeah, I sort of took a break from my diet, and it's been nice working at Jimmy's with you guys, eating whatever I want and not having to have anyone look at me funny or lecture me. Someone had lectured her, though. Julia had. Well, you can still work at Jimmy's, I said. Just don't eat his crummy food. She laughed. I know. Actually, my dad does make me a lunch every day, and I've been throwing it in the garbage on the way to school, and he's pretty mad. That was hard to imagine. Anyway, my mother found this rose on her doormat when she got home from work, and it's like really this perfect looking rose. Weird, huh? I let her talk about it a little more, about who it might have left it and why. I knew she wanted me to say that Colin probably did it, but I just couldn't make myself say the words. The third note. The next morning was the really first cold day of December. You need the jacket with the hood, Mom rasped from her bed. Her voice never sounded normal until after her coffee. Look in the front closet. She seemed to think that it was really helpful to lie in the bed and listen to the radio call out the weather report. I couldn't help but think how, in my book, Meg's mother had French toast waiting for Meg in the morning. And she was a single mom too, with Meg's dad being held prisoner halfway across the universe. I found the coat still streaked with gray from last year's dirty snow and put it on. A little stiff, but it seemed to fit okay. Where are my gloves? I called. No idea, sorry. Can I take some money? Coat pocket. I felt around in her coat and found a $5 bill and 3 singles in one pocket and her striped scarf rolled up in the other. I grabbed the singles and the scarf. Bye! The laughing man was still asleep with his head under the mailbox. He had found some cardboard to put underneath him, but still he must have been freezing. Some mornings I'd seen kids banging on the mailbox and yelling at him, Wake up, kicker! And I hoped nobody would do that today. I watched my breath billowing out in front of me and race walked toward school. The sun was out but had no warmth yet, and I shoved my hands in my pockets and felt a bunch of old tissues. Ugh. And the $3. And something else, a little piece of paper, folded in half. I pulled it out. I recognized your tiny handwriting right away, all wobbly with those weird loops you put on top of your T's and I's. You will want proof. 3 p.m. today, Colin's knapsack. Christmas Day, Tesser Well. April 27th, Studio TV 15. P.S. Yawns do serve a purpose. They cool the brain by bringing air high into the nasal passage, which has the effect of increasing alertness. The note was on the same dried up paper as the first two. 3 p.m. today, Colin's knapsack. I had no idea what that could mean, or how you knew Colin. Christmas Day, Tesser Well. This one had something to do with my book. To Tesser meant to travel through space or time, or both. It was how Meg got to Camazotz, the planet where her father was being held prisoner, but it had nothing to do with Christmas, as far as I knew. April 27th, Studio TV 15. Well, April 27th was Richard's birthday, but of course back in December I had never heard of TV 15 since Mom didn't get her postcard from the $20,000 pyramid until a couple weeks ago. I think it was the PS that freaked me out the most. I thought of the day that Sal got punched when I had carried my Mysteries of Science poster home. The PS was about Jan serving a purpose. I read the note over and over until my hands were frozen and I was forced to put them back in my pockets. It made no sense. The only thing it really helped me understand was that you were watching me, and I had no idea who you were or what you wanted. I was almost to the garage when Marcus came out of his door right in front of me. He had on his regular green army jacket, but he was wearing gloves and had a hat pulled down over his ears. I expected him to ignore me, like he always did, but instead he waved and started walking along next to me. Things that make no sense. Now, Marcus and I got to Broadway without saying anything. I was thinking. I thought of a question for you, I said finally. Okay. Let's say I built a time machine. I waited to see if he would laugh at this, but he just nodded and looked thoughtful. And let's say I decide that I want to go back to last Wednesday. And let's say I want to go to the movies while the other me is still at school. Okay. I exhaled a big white cloud. I mean, I won't get to last Wednesday until after I leave, right? I mean, I won't know if I'm really going to get there until I actually get there. Right. In your experience, you won't know if you're going to get there until after you leave. I mean, unless you remember seeing yourself on the street or something. Or we could ask the ticket guy at the theater. He was serious. What? At the movie theater. Which one are you planning to go to? Because we could ask the ticket guy if you were there. Then we'll know whether or not you're going to get there. But I haven't left yet. I haven't even built the time machine. So, it doesn't matter when you leave. It's just whether or not you get there that matters. No, wait, I take that back. It does matter when you leave, because if you don't leave for 50 years, even if you were there, the ticket guy probably wouldn't recognize you. What are you talking about? Well, let's say you finish your time machine in 50 years. You'd be 62, I said. We were across the street from school, waiting for the green light, and I could see kids coming from every direction, all bundled up in hats and scarves. Okay, so let's say that you're 62, and you climb into your machine, and you go back to last Wednesday, December whatever, 1978. You go to the movie theater, and the ticket guy would see a 62-year-old woman, right? Right, I said. So far, everything made sense. So, if we went over to the theater today and asked him whether he saw you there last Wednesday, he'd say no, because his common sense would tell him that you can't be that 62-year-old woman, and she can't be you. Get it? I shook my head. But if we asked today, he couldn't have seen me anyway. I wouldn't have been there yet, because I haven't gone back yet. Duh, a voice said behind us. It's really not all that complicated. I whirled around and saw Julia in a long coat. She was standing right behind us, waiting for the light. Marcus ignored her and looked at me. Are you still worrying about that book? About the kids and seeing themselves land in the broccoli? I said nothing. I wasn't going to have Julia hear any more of this conversation. Well, think of it like this, Marcus said, oblivious to the look that Julia was giving us. Time is in a line stretching out in front of us, going in one direction. Time is just a construct, actually. Look, Julia said, cutting him off. If you really need to know what he means, I'll explain it to you. Oh, this should be good, I thought. Julia is going to explain the nature of time. I turned around and looked at her. Fine, go ahead. She pulled off one of her gloves, and these were beautiful, fuzzy, pale yellow gloves, and she yanked a ring off of her finger. Think of it like this, she said, holding up the ring. It was gold, studded all the way around with... Are those diamonds? I said. Diamond chips. She shrugged. Look, it's like every moment in time is a diamond sitting on this ring. Pretend this ring is really big, and diamonds are all around, and each diamond is a moment. Got it? Marcus was silent, just looking at her. I laughed. Time is a diamond ring, I said. Oh, God, that explains everything. Thanks. Would you just shut up and listen? If you figured out a way to bring yourself to another time, probably through some sort of teleportation, you'd be somehow recreating your atoms, really, not physically moving them, I'm guessing. That would be tricky. Can we not worry about this part right now? I said. I'm freezing. We were still standing across the street from school, even though the red light had changed once already and gone back to red. Well, okay, put it this way. We're kind of jumping from diamond to diamond, like in cartoons where someone's running on a barrel, trying to stay on top. We have to keep moving. There's no choice. Oh, so now we're on a cartoon, on a barrel. She sighed and shook her head. Okay, forget that. Let's just stick with the ring. She held it up again. So let's say that we're here, and she put her fingernail on one diamond chip, and we figured out a way to jump all the way back to here, and she pointed to another one a few chips away. It wouldn't matter where we came from. If we're on that chip, we're at that moment. It doesn't matter whether we came from the chip behind it or 10 chips ahead of it. If we're there, we're there. Get it? No, I don't get it because what you're saying makes absolutely no. I do, Marcus said quietly. I get it. I know what she means. Thank you, Julia said. I'm glad someone here has a brain. And she stomped off through the red light while Marcus stared after her. I turned to him. So you're saying this diamond chip is just sitting there, minding its own business, and then suddenly a bunch of kids land in the diamond chip's broccoli patch? Marcus's face lit up. Stop. I see your problem. You're thinking that time exists on the diamond themselves. It doesn't. Each moment, each diamond is like a snapshot. A snapshot of what? A snapshot of everything, everywhere. There's no time in a picture, right? It's the jumping from one diamond to the next that we call time. But like I said, time doesn't really exist. Like that girl just said, a diamond is a moment, and all the diamonds on the ring are happening at the same time. It's like having a drawer full of pictures. But on the ring, I said. Yes, all the diamonds exist at once. He looked triumphant. So if you jump backwards, you're at that moment. You're in that picture, and you always were there. You'll always be there, even if you don't know it yet. I didn't understand a word of it, and I couldn't feel my feet. Forget it, I said. The whole thing is making me crazy. He nodded like he felt sorry for me and my stupid brain. I think that's probably because of your common sense. You can't accept the idea that you arrive before you leave, or the idea that every moment is happening all at the same time, and that it's us who are moving. Enough was enough. I cut him off. Hey, why did you hit Sal? I asked. Who? He looked completely mystified, as if I had just changed the subject from something very normal to something completely insane instead of the other way around. My friend Sal, you punched him in the stomach for no reason, in front of the garage, and then you hit him in the face. He nodded. Yes, that's right, he said. But no, there was a reason. That's bull. I know he never did anything to you. I'd really started to shiver by this point, even with my hands stuffed in my pockets and Mom's scarf wrapped around on my head. I did hit him for a reason, he said. What you're talking about is a justification. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do. I'm just saying I did it for a reason. My own stupid reason. I stared at him. So what was your reason? He looked down and shrugged. Same reason I do most things. I wanted to see what would happen. What do you mean what would happen? His nose started bleeding, that's what happened, and he almost threw up. Well, besides the ordinary things. He tapped the toe of one shoe on the sidewalk. It was dumb. Really, really dumb. And what? And did anything happen besides the ordinary things? He shook his head. No, not that I can tell. Now, I was going to tell him that he was wrong, that other things had happened, like Sal closing the door in my face that afternoon and never opening it again. But at that moment, I noticed the laughing man come down the block behind us. I'd never seen him near the school before. He was bent forward, mumbling and watching his feet, with his eyes on the garbage can right next to Marcus. Now, the laughing man didn't notice it standing there until he was practically on top of Marcus. And when he finally looked up, he cursed, twisted away, and took off in the other direction, sprinting like he was running a race. We watched him rush all the way back to Broadway and disappear around the corner. That was weird, I said. Yeah, Marcus agreed, and it's the second time it's happened.